Alright, welcome back to part two. Part two of the Bandit budget build, under £1,000 hopefully. Before I start, I'm looking for a Ducati Monster seat cowl from an early Ducati pre-2007. If anybody knows of one, stick it in the comments please, and I'll get on to it. It's just part of the project. I've ordered various bits and pieces. I'll get on to that in the next video. This video covers basically getting the engine out, checking the top end, checking the sump, master cylinders, and a bit of paintwork, a bit of prep for paintwork and what have you. So if you like that sort of thing, buckle up and hold on to your hats. We're about to go in deep. And finally, it's out. I'd like to say it was an easy job. I also said I wouldn't have to remove the side rail. I did. That's it sitting down there. Also had to remove the cam cover, this bit here, to get it to clear through the frame. And overall, it was a bit of a bollocks of a job, to be honest. Some of the spindles were a bit seized, and I had to take off all the bloody engine mounts to get clearance. But we're out, so I'll get this somewhere under cover, get a look at it, see what like, turn it over, check the valve clearances, and check the cams, etc. Make sure everything's okay with it. I'll film some of that for you. Alright, I'll just drop the sump on this one, and the gasket's obviously died on me. However, inside it looks alright, to be fair. It's quite clean. The oil pickup's got a few bits of crap in it, that'll get cleaned out. I had one of the oil lines off on the bottom, which is a bit of a bummer, and just let in some condensation, which is what that white stuff is that you're seeing in the oil. It's not too bad, to be fair. I'm kind of expecting this engine not to be great, to be fair, given the price of it and the fact that it was thrown into the bike at the last minute to sell it, I presume. But downstairs looks alright. I'm not seeing any chunks of metal anywhere. Like I say, here's the bottom of the cases, and although it's pretty horrible sludgy looking crap in there, there's no bits of metal in it I can feel, so that's a bonus in my book. I'll obviously give this a clean out properly, stick some gaskets on it before I put any oil near it. But that's the first part of the strip down, shall we say, inspection done. I've just literally got it, that's all the bolts right there, and I've literally just got the engine out the frame, but no time like the present, eh? So I've been and gone and bought a tank. The guy was asking 40 quid for it, which I thought seemed suspiciously cheap. And then when I got there, I had a look at it, and I noticed this. I knew that this part was missing, and I never really thought too much about it until I got there. Then I spotted this part. You can see that what they've done is this has been locked. They've either lost the key or something, and they've forced it up to open it. So I'm going to have to knock this high edge here back down. I'll take this ring off, because obviously I need to buy a new petrol tap anyway. Petrol cap should I say. And I'll heat it up and just chop that down until I can get a seal. It actually needs knocked down and in, but it will live again. On the plus side, the bottom of it, can't really see here because it's dark, but I put the flash in there and there's barely any rust in it. The outside's a different matter. There is a little bit in the back there. Nothing to worry about because it's getting resprayed anyway. It's already been resprayed once, as you can see by the paint all over the rubbers. A little bit of rust there. That's probably the bit of the cap that's rattling about. A little bit of rust there. And a little bit of rust there. But for a tank that's probably 20 years old plus, it's not too bad condition. A little bit of grot in there, maybe a bit of surface rust. But I will be using a poly disc, and I will take it down with the poly disc. I've already removed the decals, the Suzuki decals, and the obligatory flipping tank pad of a naked woman and a snake or whatever it was. So I'll be sanding this all down back to the metal. I'll use a poly disc on it, disc it down to the metal, and then we'll use some epoxy primer. Obviously you need to mask off your filler cap, epoxy primer, high build primer, and then we're going to get crazy with some candy colours. So that's something to look forward to. We're stripping the paint off the tank today, and this is what I'm using. It's called a poly disc, and stick them in the grinder. I'm just about finished, but I'll show you a little bit. I want your ears. You can get bloody big. So that's it all sanded down pretty much. I've just got to take a Scotch Brite round the inside of here. You can't get at it with the flap disc, the poly disc. I found some rust in the back here, just some pitting. So I've stuck some of this stuff on it. Hammerite Q-Rust it's called. And you can see yourself, it changes the colour of the metal. I've also found a couple of little bits around the edges, so I just went right around the entire bottom edge. As you can see, some bits in the underneath. I'm not sanding this back to the metal. Underneath, I'm just going to scuff it with a Scotch Brite, and then we'll hit it with some epoxy primer. I might actually do that today since it's a nice day, but that'll give me something to do. So the tank, that's taken me maybe a couple of hours to do it properly. I've done all these tabs as well. The rubbers that came out are solid. Yeah, these tank rubbers here, they're also covered in paint. Rock solid. One of them actually split. Well, that one's split as well, look. So that's another couple of things to add to the list of what I need to buy. So I'll go and add them on just now before I forget and get them ordered. Right, just putting down the first coat of epoxy primer on here. What I did was sanded it all down, 240 grit, and then clean it all thoroughly with wax and grease remover. Starting the underside, which I've done. I'm not lifting up the tank to show you because it's still wet. And then do all your edges first. All your edges, make sure you get up into the V part of it. Make sure you get good coverage and everything. Mask up your cap hole and around about it. You don't want any paint where the petal tap seal seals. Okay, so that's coat number one. I'll have a look at it in 10-15 minutes when it dries. There's a little bit of shit there. I don't know if you can see that, can you? So that'll need, see if I can remove it. No, I just made a fucking balls up of it. Right, never mind. Pretend you didn't see that. Needs a little bit more on the inside of that rim. You can see it's still a bit pink looking. But that's the first coat of epoxy primer, 2 to 1. It's 2 parts of primer, 1 part of hardener. Provides a really good chemical bond, and it'll prevent fuel from wrecking your tank. It's also a really good base to work off if you're going down to metal. So use it, don't just go straight into high build primer. Either use an etch primer, which is not as good, or an epoxy primer, which is probably the best bet for metal. This will get another coat at least, and then it'll get a light sand, and then it'll get a couple of coats of 4:1 high bulb primer. That's 4 parts primer, 1 part hardener, and then we'll be ready to get some colour on it. I'm still waiting for bits to arrive obviously, but I just did this today because what you don't want to do is to get it down to metal and then leave it lying around for a week or two, because it'll just attract moisture and you're just asking for problems basically. So that's the first part of the painting process done on the tank. It's looking a lot better already. Right, so I'm not sure if it'll pick up in the camera, but the part that was corroded, it's just about here, just above my finger. That'll need filled before we put the primer on, but I'll leave this a couple of days to dry and set solid. Then I'll give it a light sand. My spray gun kind of screwed up a bit, so the finish on it isn't the best. It's a bit of a mess actually, but never mind. Nothing that can't be sanded. I'll give it a sand of 600, and then we'll put the primer on. Get rid of all the small little lumps and bumps. Like I say, I haven't used that primer gun for a while. I'm not making excuses, but I haven't used the primer gun for a while, and it must have had some crap in it or something, because it was leaking out the tip. So always clean your guns. There's some good advice. Another bit of good advice is always wear a mask, a proper mask for 2-part paint, or you'll suffer. Trust me, I've had isocyanate poisoning twice, and I wouldn't recommend it. It feels like you're dying. So get yourself a proper mask. Don't skimp. You only get one set of lungs. We're going to have a quick delve into the head of this, just to have a look and see what the cams are. So I'm going to start taking the cam cover off. That's this bit here. And how you do that is obviously take the feed lines out the back, these ones. But beware, there's a rubber O-ring in there. Not sure if you can see it or not, but don't lose it. Also, when you put these back, don't tighten them down too hard. It's very easy to strip them. When you're taking the cover off, remember this bolt here. There's also another one hiding down there. Take them off. You have to undo these as well. I always start from the middle, work my way out from the centre. That one's missing for some reason. I'll have to look at the thread, make sure it's not stripped or anything. They're quite easy to strip, these threads and the heads. It's just where people have been ape, trying to tighten them down and that. So what I'll do is I'll get the Allen key out, take this cam cover off, and then we'll have a look together and see what's in there. Right, I've slackened all the bolts in the head now. I've used a rubber mallet to chop around the edges at various different places to try and get them off. There's obviously dowels in some of these. I think this one at the front's got a dowel. Not sure about that one, but there is various dowels around the head. So we're doing this together for the first time, kids. The seal's stuck on something. What? I don't know. Oh, maybe it has been siliconed in after all. Well, so definitely get something holding on. Hey, we have a head off. Have a look inside your cover. Make sure there's no cracks or anything, or any obvious signs that there's been a party in there, Yeah, you can see that sealant there. Somebody has sealed that, and you can also see it in the groove. But that's what people do. That's what fucking bodgers do. You shouldn't really need to be fair. The rubber gasket should be enough to hold it in. But it is quite awkward at times, trying to get the head on whilst it's there. Right, let's have a look. Now, start at number 4. Looks a bit grotty in there, doesn't it? Maybe do a clean. The cams themselves, cam lobes look sound. I'll also have to check the valve clearances, etc. That's another one. There's not a mark on them. Beauty. And this one. If you want to go to town, I'll just get this out of the way. This gasket. They're easy deformed. There's one of those dowels I was telling you about. You have to be wary of them when you take the head off. You don't want to take the dowel off as well and lose it. Yeah. Yeah, the cam lobes look good. That's perfect. Happy days. You might detect a hint of surprise in my voice, but I'm a bit of a pessimist. I always expect the worst, you know. You can definitely do a clean out in here, that's for sure. This side's maybe not so bad, but 3 and 4 are a bit grotty, you know. Probably fine, but I'll maybe go a clean out with some degreaser just to get rid of some of the crap out of there. I'll obviously check the valves, screw and lock nuts. You can see here there's the, wait a minute, it's like a pointer. Yeah, this is what you use to adjust the valves. This is a screw on the top and the lock nut just below it, and you measure it with the cams pointing up between the top of the valve and the follower with the verniers, not verniers, bloody, those thin friggin' things that I've forgotten the name of. The specs will be in your manual. What are they called again? Shit, that's annoying. That's what happens when you get old, you forget shit. Looking at the threads, these are the threads that hold the cam cover down. They look okay, mostly. Yeah. Most of them look okay. I think that one there, actually, that one that I just looked at, maybe doesn't look that okay. But they're easy enough to put a time cert into if you need to, because it's just holding the cam cover on. You don't want to replace these because these are line bored at the factory to suit the camshafts. So you don't want to be going, oh, I'll just buy another one of these if the thread's knackered. You'll be doing more damage than good unless it's exactly the same size as the one that came out. And the chances of that are probably about fucking 1,000,000 to 1. So don't move them out. This is your cam chain in the middle, obviously. Got a cam chain tensioner down the back. That's another little bonus I noticed the other day. This one's an APE, American Performance, dude. So that'll add at least another 50 horsepower. What's that in there? Nothing to worry about. So yeah, plugs look like they've been there a while, but there's no. These tunnels can also fill with crap, so it's a good idea before you take your plugs out to get an air line before you take the cam cover off as well, obviously, and blast it down there. There's some slits just below the exhaust ports, and these are a drain that goes the drain from here out the front, just below the exhaust ports. You'll see 2 slits. So that's a bonus. The head is looking pretty good. So I'm happy about that. I'm just going to put it back on. I don't want to get in dust and dirt and stuff in there. In the meantime, until I get round to doing the valves and whatnot, and when I do them, I'm going to put the engine on a stand and do it properly on the bench. This is just sitting on the floor. It's basically where I dumped it when I took it out the bike. So we'll get on to that later date, but first impressions, pretty happy with it, to be honest. Looks okay. I mean, really, I could probably just stick it in the bike and crank it over and see how it goes, you know, but I'd rather just check it out first. It's always a good idea, just in case there's anything major like the clutch or the gearbox, or you don't be taking the engine in, then want to take it out 10 minutes later, do you? So it's always worth a look. So we'll do that. Okay, we're back. I decided to use the master cylinders off the slab side. However, I've taken them out and they look as if they've been living in the bottom of the sea, to be honest. I mean, look at the state of that bolt there, for example. I think it's moved in years. It's also missing, well, that one's got it, but the screws were rounded. I managed to get it out though. This one here, it's missing. Yeah, it's missing the cover with the sensor in there. So we'll there's a rounded bolt in the top of this, not this one here. So I had to drill it out. As you can see, doesn't look too pretty, does it? But it had those wee stainless bolts in there, and Allen head keys were rounded, obviously. So I had to drill one of them out, but I got it out, so that's a bonus. Underside, oh, it's cracked. Oh dear. Well, that'll be that then. However, I was going to have a look inside the actual cylinder, see if there's any shite in here. Ooh, yeah, murky water. That's just absolutely filthy. That's what that is. I don't even know what that is, but I don't think it's brake fluid, to be honest with you. It looks like pond water or something along that lines. So we'll put that back together. I could rebuild these. I actually took it off, took the lever off, and I pulled out the pin. But if you look at the pin, the rubber's all corroded, pin's all corroded. I mean, you could tidy them up and reuse them, but probably get a second-hand set of calipers for less than the cost of the seal kit, to be fair. And I'd have to paint them. I have to find another part for the bottom of that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these in a skip because they're absolutely toasted. This is after I've cleaned it out. But look at all the corrosion down the bottom there. Undoubtedly the piston that's in this would be absolutely hammered. The seal would be knackered. You probably need a new piston, a new seal, new circlips. Obviously you get it out by, I'll show you, take that out. In there's a rubber, looks well perished. You peel that back, there's sometimes a circlip in there you need to take out. Or sometimes they can just push out and the lever holds them in, but I think there's usually a circlip. However, I'll guarantee you when you take that cylinder out, it's going to be knackered. So you need a new cylinder, new screws, obviously, because they're all rounded off to death. And I'll be honest, it's just not worth it. When you get to this age, you need brakes. You know, your life kind of depends on it. If you pull a handful of brake and the rubber seals all perish and lets all the fluid pass without putting any brakes on, you go diving into a ditch, you know. It's about that point that you think, you know, maybe that 40 or 50 quid for a second-hand set of calipers was money well spent. And like I say, I'd probably spend more than that rebuilding these, so I'm going to just throw them in the skip and get another set. I've got a set off a Hayabusa that I have. I'll maybe use them. I think they'd probably be a better bet than these. These have obviously been through the wars, and I don't think they've been used for years. And like I say, the amount of corrosion on them, you know, it's just, you could clean them up, but it's not worth it. Here's some more of what you have to contend with. Look at all the salt encrusted in there. The rubber's on its last legs as well. You'd have to replace that, I would say. So we'll just get a second-hand set of calipers that are hopefully in better condition than this, and we will march onwards. Sometimes you just got to cut your losses. There's no point in carrying on just because you've got the stuff, you know. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses, buy another set and move on, and we'll be here for months. So our tank's dried now, and well, should I say the paint's dried, the epoxy, and we're going to sand it down. So what you'll need is a couple of microfibers, a sanding block of some sort, some soap, some warmish water with a bit of fairy liquid or something in it, and some sandpaper. Don't skimp on sandpaper. 3M is what you want. It's better than all the rest of them by far, and if you buy the cheap stuff, you'll just end up using more. This is what I use, Better Dry Try M8, and today we're going 800. The reason we're going 800 is because we've got plenty of 800 and we don't have plenty of 600. I've also got some other Mirka stuff. This is cheap, but it does the job and it lasts reasonably well. Not as well as the 3M, but it's okay. So obviously wet sand it, use the block. These curved areas you won't be able to use the blocks, you just have to use your hand. I've got a trick for that, I'll show you once I've done the most of it with wet, should I say. I'll do those curves dry, and what I'll use is I'll use some it's like a powder stuff you put in. It shows up all the highs. Can't remember what it's called, but I'll show you it when I get around it. So I'm going to start sanding this. Notice there's a dent in the top of the tank here. Never really noticed it when it was red, so that'll need filled. The bit of corrosion at the back will need filled, and any other bits that I can see, we'll fill them as well. There's really not a lot to fill, to be fair. So I'll crack on, and I'll get back when I've sanded. Right, I've given an initial sand with 800. It feels relatively smooth, but it won't be, obviously. And I was telling you about a secret ingredient, and this is it here. It's called Guide Coat, and I'll show you how it works. Inside the top of it, there's a sponge, and it's got like black dye in it. So what you do is you put this all over your tank, and you can see the high spots and the low spots already. You know, you can see it's got like a mottled appearance, which means that there are still high spots. And what you do with this is once you put it on, you'll sand it, and as you sand, this guide coat will come off, and you'll get down to a flat surface. You can see just how bad that epoxy was put on with my gun being tits up the other day, and that's what you get, more sanding for your troubles. So as you can see, it looks like a bloody leopard, but we'll sand it down and dry, and we'll get rid of all those high spots, and I'll show you once I've sanded a little bit just what you're looking for. Okay, now I've sanded it, and as you can see, this area here is now flat. There's no mottling in it at all, and you just use your block your sandpaper on it. And another thing it's good for is highlighting low spots. I've done a bit here just to demonstrate. That's where that dent is in the top of the tank, and as you can see, the middle of the dent has still got the guide coat in it, and the outside's flat, so it's handy for that as well. Like I say, these sides we'll just have to do these by hand, but we'll get there. So what you want is your whole tank to look like this. You know, there's no black dye there anymore, there's no low spots, and once you've got to that stage, that's perfect for the next coat. Right, there we are, we've sanded it all down. I ended up ditching the 800 and going with 600 because the 800 wasn't biting into it enough. So now it's sanded to 600, that's all you need for your next coat. And you can see there's a couple areas, this bit here, that'll need filled. There's a bit in the rim, that'll need filled. A couple of bits here, tiny bits. I mean, you might not think it's much, but I can guarantee you when you paint it, you'll see it, it'll stick out like a sore thumb. This bit here, obviously, where it was corroded, it needs sanded as well. But as you can see, all the guide coat has been sanded off pretty much. We're down to a flat surface, so what I'll do is I'll give this a quick wash, get rid of any remaining dust. I don't bother sanding down these bits. Call me lazy if you like, but you know, nobody looks at it, and I can sand it with the next coat if it looks rough. So like I say, quick wash down, let that dry, with dry it off with the microfiber. Don't leave water on them, you always dry them off, or it'll cause problems when you paint. So that's next in the agenda, and then we'll be getting some high build primer on it. Alright, I've filled these up, as you can see. One there, one there. Also did the bit around the rim badly. The stuff is drying on me, so sue me. I'll sand it down with 600 though, there should be plenty on there to cover the bits that I need it to cover. These bits here, when you put it on, mix it up at 50 to 1, 50 parts of filler, 1 part hardener. or a golf ball, a pea size roughly. Spread it on, and when you spread it on, take your spreader around the edges so you're not left with any like sharp edges on it. Just makes it a lot easier to sand, and use your block to sand it. I've just literally done this. I'll leave it to dry and then I'll come back and sand it, and hopefully tomorrow I'll get some high build on it. I'm just going to leave it for the rest of the day, but it's okay now. It's all ready to rock. Still looking for a seat cowl for a Ducati 600 or 900. If anybody knows the one out there, let me know in the comments section. Thank you very much. Here's the master cylinders I mentioned earlier. These are on a Hayabusa. They had some of these shorty levers on them, and apparently the boy was trying to say that this one didn't work or something, but I find it hard to believe because most of these things work in pretty much anything. Sometimes you're best to drill out the pivot and put a sleeve in there, because the alloy is quite soft on them and it can like oval over a few years. But I mean, the price of them, like 20 quid for a pair, you know. You could just replace them if you're not happy. I'll have to get rid of these tops. They've got Hayabusa all over them, can't have that on my lovely Bandit. But anyway, that's them. Whilst I'm on about Bandits, here's a question for the masses. I'll just show you something. These are the grab handles. See these bolts? Yeah, there's a rubber between the handle and the bodywork, but inside there's a gap between the end of the handle and the part of the frame that it screws into, and it must be about 15mm. Can somebody tell me if there's a spacer that's meant to go in there or not? If hopefully there is, there'll need to be something in there, I'd imagine. So I'll stick these back. These are pretty serviceable, and they're Nissan, which I like. And Nissan stuff's usually pretty good. So I might give them a quick paint. We'll see. This is the rest of said Hayabusa. It's in the middle of getting a subframe built for it. Street Fighter. Fancy yokes. R1 front end. R1 back end. Sexy. Extended swinging arm, etc, etc. Harris rear sets. Full system. It's a weapon. But enough of that. We're not interested in that. We're interested in building a budget Bandit. So I'll sign off at that for today. And I'll come back once I get the frame and all the rest of the stuff together. I can have a look at that. Hopefully I'll have had a bit more painting done by then. I might video it, hopefully, to give you an idea how to do it. And we'll take it from there. Stay tuned for part 3. If you've liked what you've seen so far, stick a like down the bottom. I'd appreciate it. Remember to subscribe!